Yo.
Hello, and happy Friday, everyone. Pawn, you beat me to the greeting. What's going on? Hope everyone's having a great Friday. Welcome into another episode of Titan Talk. I'm Isaiah. Kilgoon is enjoying a much-deserved vacation,
Yep.
but Pawn is with me today because the show must go on, and
Yep.
we've still got Open Beta 14 stuff to talk about. Today, we're going to be spending pretty much the majority of the show talking about balance that is upcoming in Open Beta 14.
Yep.
And there may be some slight teasers for some of the things that we're thinking about for the next update after 14 as well. But
Yep.
before we get into balance, Pon, how you doing today?
It's good. It's Friday. I'm currently working through why something of mine is crashing, and I finally figured out why, and fixing it's going to be a little annoying, but yeah, that's the life.
Nice, cool. Well, while we're on the show, you can noodle on that in the background, and then once we end, you can go back to fixing stuff up. But I will go ahead and I will bring up the handy-dandy desktop, and we'll go through all the balance stuff for Open Beta 14. And we're switching things up a little bit today. We're going to do gods first instead of items, and we'll kick things off with On Her. But I guess before we go item by item, give me just the general thought process on the overarching direction of the update.
Yeah, so this patch is going to be mostly focused on god level balance with like one item adjustment because we've seen the item get really strong. It's going to be lighter in that sense. It's not going to have as many game sweeping changes as it was before, but we want to make sure that the ones we targeted here were impactful.
Yeah.
So one major thing was we've seen that the ranked ban order, the types of characters being banned has been pretty stagnant. We've done nerfs to those characters, but they still are at the top of the ban order. Yeah. So we're being a bit more aggressive in our nerfs to those characters to try and shake up the meta there a little bit. But we are working in the background for OB14.
Yeah.
And OB15 is a lot of stuff.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. Yeah.
So just know this patch we want to be very targeted what we did, how we tried to address like the super top level meta that's been a bit stagnant. So that's where a lot of the focus of these changes are. And then we also wanted to look at some aspects that are underperforming. No Loki yet. Loki is the one that always comes up when we talk about this. Loki's a bit more involved, but these characters we felt like either had things that we could fix or things that we could tweak to make just better and bring them a lot closer to the non-aspect version.
Awesome. Well, we are in alphabetical order here. So On Her up first, going to be seeing an aspect buff to Aspect of Pride. Enfeeble, the passive, your stacks are no longer reset if your abilities deal damage to a different god.
Yeah, so this one stacks based off your basic attacks hitting the same god. It felt weird that your abilities hitting another god caused it to reset. So if you were fighting someone and then you leapt in to be aggressive and you clipped like the enemy support and knocked them away instead, you actually just lose all your stacks. And that just didn't feel great.
Felt bad.
So now it's only if your basic attack it either has to fall off or your basic attack has to hit someone different. Your abilities are relevant, and your ult actually doesn't last long enough to make you lose your stacks now, so you can now ult and still have your stacks potentially, which is cool.
Awesome. All right, Bach is up next, also seeing an aspect buff. Chug, we're going to be increasing the bonus strength that you get from the one, and then aspect of Revelry's Chug, we're increasing the buff duration, and now matches base Bacchus as well.
I think that the Chug one, the increased bonus strength, is also aspect only. I'll have to double check. Cool. But essentially, this is a focus on the aspect. We wanted to make the strength component of it more impactful. And then we thought that we needed to have some scaling rank increase for Chug because that's the main thing you're getting on aspect of Revelry. But it just made it so that you just didn't get to play with it as long. It didn't feel as impactful. So now it lasts as long, which means you get full 6 seconds of cleave at level 1, which is just really, really good.
Sweet. All right, Kernanos up next, going to be seeing an aspect buff. General first, a bug fix for Shifter of Seasons for both. We fixed a tooltip issue where the fall stance stated that it reduced percent protections. It should and has been actually reducing protections by a flat amount.
Yeah, the tooltip was just had a percent there that was errant that it shouldn't have had. It's always worked this way, so it should be good to go there.
Yeah.
The cooler part is the aspect change.
Yes, so Shifter of Seasons, increasing the summer base damage, increasing the fall protection reductions, increasing the base winter slow, and increasing the winter slow direction. But Horn Charge now also applies your Shifter of Seasons effects.
Yeah, this aspect has been really interesting. There's a few meme cases where it's really good, but overall it's been struggling. And one aspect we thought we could make it better is that one, Shifter Season just is more impactful generally for the aspect, which is just an interesting space to play in, but also making Horn Charge actually apply the Shifter Season effect, because that's the main thing you're trying to do. You're trying to dash through a whole bunch of targets. Yeah. You can now dash through and apply a stronger version of the protection reduction or a stronger version of the damage.
Cool. All right, up next, we have got Mercury. Up next, Mercury released He had some issues, got a lot of feedback that he was feeling maybe just a little bit under the radar, a little bit underwhelming. So going to be seeing a couple buffs here. Fastest God Alive, the passive. We're going to be increasing the bonus damage per stack. And then Sonic Boom, going to be decreasing the cooldown, and it goes down as you rank up the ability.
Yeah, so his release, he had a few bugs. He had a few things where his scaling wasn't being considered the way that it should have been. So he released it like 42%, 43% win rate, which is really, really low. Like generally anywhere from like 47 to 53 is about the range. It's like fair depending on how difficult the character is. So he was definitely struggling. After we fixed all those things, he's doing a lot better now. He's closer to like 48%.
Nice. That's a good jump.
So that's a big jump there, but we think that he has more room to go up. Sonic Boom, this decreased cooldown. It was one thing we were concerned about in the port for him, was if that his ultimate, because crossing that distance and applying that much CC is really, really strong. We think that he can get the reduced cooldown on it that he has in Smite 1, as well as Fastest God Alive can just contribute more damage.
Nice. All right, Thor, going to be seeing some changes here to his non-aspect version, just base version. So Mjolnir's attunement is going to be seeing increased strength scaling. Berserker's Barrage is going to be seeing increased cone strength scaling. And then Aspect of Thunderstruck does not gain the above scaling increases. So really just base Thor getting a buff.
Yeah, base Thor, it's interesting because he's swinged a little bit in how strong he was. And in the last few patches, he's actually been like on the lower end. Again, we were talking about like 47%. He's like 45, 46. And his aspect version is definitely the way that you're going to play him. Some of that is because there's other assassins in the meta that are really pushing him down. Pele is the notable example. She'll be on this list later. But we think that he has some room to go up just in general anyway. So non-aspect buff should help him out a lot.
Cool. All right, moving right along. Scylla up next, going to be seeing a non-aspect nerf and an aspect buff. So Crush for non-aspect, going to be seeing a decrease in the intelligence scaling and a decrease in the magical protection debuff. But Aspect of the Devourer is getting some new fun here. Your Quick Learner passive, you now gain 1 mana regen per max ability. And then I'm a Monster, you now gain 5 mana regen when this ability reaches max rank. And we've increased the damage scaling on it.
Yeah, so Scylla doing really, really well. Also super, super popular. We think that her Crush was just doing a little too much. This is a really light nerf in the grand scheme of things. The main thing here is actually the focus on the Aspect of the Devourer, that new aspect that changes the way that you build up towards your ultimate. And we just think it's taken too long to get there. So we're increasing the mana regen. We're giving you some more mana regen on max rank. And we're also just increasing the scaling so that when you actually do get to the ultimate build-up, it's going to be way more impactful. And that mana regen is just basically going to act as a way of, even if you're not necessarily landing hits or you're not able to land as many hits, you will be making progress.
You're still getting something.
To getting your ultimate. So should help this aspect out a ton.
Awesome. All right, up next for Gods, Aladdin. Pawn. This is your baby.
Yes.
Lots of changes to Aladdin. He's going to be seeing a slew of nerfs to Kufic Invocation and Into the Lamp. There's a lot here. I'll let chat kind of absorb it.
Yes.
I'm not going to read everything. Pawn, just tell me what's going on with Aladdin.
So this is the beginning of the list I was talking about at the top of the show, where there have been a few characters that have been on the top bans, and we've seen them respond to nerfs, but generally they stay at the top ban level. And so this is we're gonna if we need to buff them later, we can, but we're gonna try and be generally pretty aggressive about removing them from the top ban. Aladdin here is getting just general damage and scaling nerfs. I think the one that really needs more explaining is probably the Into the Lamp. This non-combatant
I know
damage.
all your legalese that you wrote in the ability description.
So for those that don't know, if you go into the lamp with Aladdin, you're considered a combatant. And if someone comes in to help you, they're considered a non-combatant. And so they actually have a damage penalty. They don't deal as much damage to the combatants, and they take more damage from the combatants. So someone coming in to help you can actually, they might not be able to contribute as much as they think. They might actually be more liable to die because the focus of the show is really the 1v1, but this was just too intense for what it was doing. It was often baiting really bad scenarios. A lot of people kind of learned that like going in to help can sometimes just be a super big death trap, and it really shouldn't be. We kind of want there to be that push and pull of people feeling like they can join but debating. So this being reduced just generally means that there's more incentive for more people to enter the lamp, which can help out the Aladdin player. But it also means that just generally, if you have a numbers advantage, so let's say like Aladdin ult someone and then like 3 people can come help that person that Aladdin got ulted. Aladdin had a pretty good chance of potentially killing all of them because of the damage taken penalty and the damage dealt. They couldn't quite really burst down Aladdin. Now it's going to be a lot harder in that situation.
Sweet. All right. Up next, Artemis. actually performing quite well. So she's going to
Yes.
be seeing a nerf just to suppress the insolent, just a decrease in the strength scaling.
Yeah, she was actually like outlier. She had like an outlier position on the hunter list, so we just wanted to make sure we took a little bit of the edge off. This is probably in relationship to the strength scaling buffs that we did. It affects different characters differently, and we just think that we'll see if this needs to hold. But she spiked in a way that we were not anticipating, so this is kind of a preventative measure to make sure that like she's staying in line with everyone else.
Yeah. All right, up next we have Awelish, another jungler that has been at the top of the ban list for a really long time. Going to be seeing a few nerfs here to initiative, decreasing the strength and basic attack power bonus that you get from the passive, Feather Step decreasing the damage multiplier, and then Gravity Surge decreasing the stun duration on that.
Yeah, so the stun duration, it matters a little bit. DR will largely have kicked in and made it reduce, but this just means this is essentially the quickest we can make the stun so that you have most time to react. Outside of this, initiative gives a lot of hidden strength and really allows her to burst targets down before they have a chance to react. Combine that with Feather Step, especially like you could even go for the 1.5 multiplier and it's still going to chunk really, really hard. We want to give you more reward for getting to the max range of it. So now if you only get like a little bit, like if you actually only use the second stage of it, it's not going to contribute nearly as much. If you want the full payoff, you really have to actually commit the attacks to get to the final attack chain. I think this is going to just generally take the edge off of Wielix and hopefully remove her from like the super top ban priority.
All right, Ganesh aspect nerf up next. A lot of feedback on this one that I've been seeing around the community and on social media. So aspect of the Triumphant, we're going to be increasing the cooldown and removing the slow debuff.
Yeah, so the ultimate contributes a lot of damage. This being on a longer cooldown means that especially with things like Spear of Desolation, you're not going to be able to get it reset nearly as quickly.
Or the World Stone,
Yeah. And they remove the slow debuff. That's a team fight utility for a more supporty character. We're just keeping the damage cage being a damage cage and meaning that you won't contribute that type of CC to a fight with this aspect.
Cool. All right, up next, Guan Yu seeing an aspect nerf to aspect of the general. Battle Fervor, the passive, we're going to be decreasing the intelligence per stack, decreasing the intelligence at max stacks, and then decreasing the intelligence bonus at max stacks as well.
Yeah, and I put a helpful little, like, here's what it means at level 1, here's what it means at level 20. Aspect of the general is just generally the better way to play Guan Yu right now. This aspect's been overperforming, and it's a lot of that free intelligence means that you're not really making the trade-off between, do I want to build more intelligence, be more squishy to bring more healing and utility to my team, or do I want to be that frontline tank? And so now you're not you don't have as much of that just free intelligence to lean on. So that means your build decision is going to matter more.
All right, Loki up next, another jungler. Flurry Strike going to be seeing a decrease in the final damage and seeing a decrease in the final damage on Assassinate as well.
Yep, this is similar to Artemis, where after the strength changes and we've seen some things level out, he just spiked really, really hard in his win rate. And again, the strength adjustments were largely healthy for a lot of characters, but for some characters who had a really high amount of scaling in their kits and just the way that they utilize it, it made them spike up higher than intended. So this is just taking the edge off of it. Again, compared to some of the other nerfs we're doing for the other top band characters, this will matter, but it's not going to kill the character. But we think that we need to take the edge off of Loki.
Yeah. All right, and then Pele is up next. You mentioned a little bit earlier on in the show that she was going to be on this list, receiving a nerf to Everlasting Flame, the passive, decreasing the lifesteal. Eruptions, going to be seeing a decrease to both the inner and outer strength scaling, and then Volcanic Lightning, the ultimate, decreasing the initial hit damage.
Yep, Pele, another really high-performing character. She wasn't in the top ban list, so she probably should have been hit harder than this, but we were largely focused on, like, keeping this super intense nerfs for, like, this matters, but, like, it's not the same level of some of the other characters we saw. She was definitely really doing well with the strength adjustment changes, both her aspect and her non-aspect version, and this should just take, again, the edge off of things. Make her, so when she triggers Everlasting Flame, it's not as spiky in the health department. Her burst on Volcanic Lightning is going down in a later game. And taking that scale off Eruption, which is a now pseudo movement ability with CC, shouldn't contribute as much damage.
Cool. All right, up next, Princess Bari, going to be seeing a nerf here to Reverend Steps, the 3, decreasing the strength scaling, and then Spirit's Cadence, decreasing the pulse strength scaling and the final hit strength scaling.
Yep, another character that's been on the ban list for a while.
Yep.
Taking a ton of strength scaling off through basically the whole kit. So 20% strength scaling off through 3 is really, really impactful, especially with how frequently she casts that ability. And Spirit's Cadence is a big team fight ultimate. It doesn't need to contribute nearly as much scaling. It was essentially 120% before, so now this is now 80. So pretty big drop on
sure.
the strength side of Bari, which we're generally seeing her see most success in the strength, like kind of carry crit build department.
All right. Up next, and I think this might be our last one for gods.
And she was the one that's been at the top for the longest and has received the most nerfs. And
Kali's been top banned for a long time.
Our hope is that this addresses that for a while at least. So yeah, Marked for Death, her passive gives her a ton of healing. It also gives her a lot of like hidden benefits as well. The decreased penetration, the penetration on your marked target, and the gold bounty for actually successfully killing the target is really impactful in helping her spike. We're reducing all those. Nimble Strike is losing a lot of the base heal, so you're not just going to be able to heal up as much for just landing on a target that's full health. You actually have to try and find targets that are lower health. And Destruction, this actually got a slight buff when we ported her to Smite 2 because we increased the tick rate, and increasing the tick rate meant that she actually got more ticks per rank properly, where she didn't before. So now the contribution here matters a lot, and also that it builds up Rupture, which you can then consume now. It just doesn't need to contribute nearly as much scaling when you're just in the middle of a team fight, whirling on people and hitting people as frequently as you are.
Cool. All right, so that is it for our god changes. We do have one item change, as you mentioned earlier. Serrated Edge has been the hotness for a lot of people over the past couple of weeks that I've been seeing. So going to be seeing a nerf, increasing the cost and decreasing the lifesteal.
Yeah, this is one where we've just seen people building it a lot more frequently. It's one of those items that has a lot of really base lifesteal and a lot of base strength that if you rush it early, especially, it can be really, really impactful. Upping the cost to make it harder to rush early, and you're decreasing the lifesteal of it being that impactful.
Yeah. All right, and that is it for the list for Open Beta 14 Balance. As we mentioned earlier, a little bit lighter this side because, Pon, I know you've been working on a lot of stuff for the next update after this, correct?
Yes. I can spoil a little bit of it. But yeah, the big focus that I've been working on is for OB15. And it's one aspect of the game that we wanted to tackle for a while, which is just generally like healing and sustain and lifesteal in the game. We've made some changes in Smite 2 to how lifesteal works, where it's more effective against god damage. And we've had to do a lot of things with anti-heal to make anti-heal impactful. And it creates a weird dynamic of like, it's the kind of arms race that we tried to avoid in the past, where like it's a requirement to build certain things because the game is built in a certain way and it just limits item diversity. So we're doing a really, really big pass on that aspect of the game. I don't know how much I want to say here, but
you can, caveat subject to change, right?
Yeah, subject to change. I talked to the ambassadors about this. They're generally on board. There's a little bit of trepidation about like the intensity of how like some specifics of it have shifted. But I think overall, I think it's going to be really good for the game.
Yeah.
I think the notes I have right now are like 9 pages.
Yes.
And what was the count? I don't know if we're actually going to be able to get this many items in. Again, this is all subject to change, but I think there's like 9 or 10 new items.
Yes, I was going to say upwards of 10 new items potentially for the next update, which is a big deal and a lot of stuff. So
yeah, so that's again, we're trying to focus on all the things, trying to get you guys gods as frequently as we can. We're trying to ship updates as best as we can. So because we're having that big a focus for OB15, this patch was very focused on like outlier cases that we wanted to make sure it didn't go either too long unaddressed or for the characters that were like at the top band ranked levels,
just bringing them down and getting them off the top. They've been having fun. They've been having fun
for too long. We want to see more interesting ban opportunities for players in ranked. And then some aspects that we looked at and we're like, these are underperforming, and we have really clear, straightforward ideas of how we want to address them. Again, that's why you don't see like a Loki aspect change, because we understand Loki's aspect is definitely one of those ones that we want to look at.
There's some that I know you have all been, workshopping and thinking about for a long time, but we just want to make sure we take our time with it. And
take our time with it. And sometimes it's even just like even if we have an idea, finding the right time to do it, given all the other priorities that we have. So that's kind of why the list looks like it does. But I think overall this should generally help especially the top end level of play, see a bit more variety.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, I think that is everything that we had today to talk about for Balance in terms of what's coming in Open Beta 14 on next Tuesday and what we're thinking about and working on for Open Beta 15, the update after the next one. So I think we can go ahead and open it up. We're nearing halfway through the show, so we haven't had Pon on the show for a minute, so I figure we could just kind of open things up for some Q&A to kind of close out the week before we get ready for Open Beta 14 to go live next Tuesday.
Yeah.
So, chat, what do you want to talk about today?
I see them asking for a tease.
Item tease.
Is there one that I want to tease?
There are so many. You got to choose from the 10.
Well, the one that I'm working on was the one that's the most interesting is the one that was crashing.
Oh no.
And it has the fix for it is definitely one of those things where it's like I need to actually look to see if we can do it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that one could be good because if you don't see it, you understand why.
Yeah.
So the one teaser I'll give is Typhon's Fang is going away. That won't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The reason, and this will set up some of the other discussion, is we want to look at things that are increase healing by a lot. And because we're looking at how anti-heal interact with healing increases, that effect just doesn't really work as well anymore. So we're replacing that with Typhon's Heart. And Typhon's Heart is interesting. So the way it works is you build up stacks by doing things. And at a certain stack count, you'll actually spawn a monster of Typhon. And this monster Typhon has a health amount, and it does damage based off the lifesteal you've built, your intelligence, and some of your like base stats. Yeah. That's cool. You spawn
you spawn a
little cool monster pet. Now, the thing about that is if you get to max stacks again, and your lifesteal heals it. So like as you're lifestealing, you're healing it as well. It's kind of like the goal is to make it so that there's things that scale with lifesteal and give you cool benefits for lifesteal that aren't just lifesteal more and more and more and more, right? That's the kind of general idea of the item. If you get to max stacks again, rather than spawning a second monster, we full heal that previous monster and then make it stronger and bigger. So you can just try and keep your monster alive, keep trying to stack.
It's a fun little mini game, right?
To build it up and make it stronger, and use that to help you push, use that to help you fight things. Should be interesting.
Yes. Subject to change, but it's definitely spicy, and there's a lot more spicy stuff that Pon has been working on.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of other items. I think that one's the one that's most involved, but I think all of them are pretty interesting what they do. We have a lot of other things going into it to also relate to that patch. So we'll talk about that more later. Yeah. I think that'll be at some point next week's show.
Maybe. Yeah, I forget what, because we have the update next Tuesday. So maybe the week after next, maybe that Monday or Wednesday. I forget. Because we shifted the schedule too, so I have my days mixed up. But give Pon a little bit more time to cook chat, and we'll be back in a week or so to talk about more stuff.
I would talk about it more now, but there's definitely still stuff in flux. We're still working on making sure that we can get all this into the patch and all that stuff. So it'd be better to wait till then so you guys can have the full details. But I really want to get Typhon's Heart working, so that's what I'm working on right now, and I think that one's gonna be really fun.
All right, let's see here. I guess we could do just another slight little spoiler. You don't have to say explicitly what, but I see a couple people asking, are there SMITE 1 returning items as a part of this pass as well?
Yes. 2?
There you go. Subject to change.
I'm trying to remember if it's 3 or 2. I know if I can think of the 2 I'm thinking of right now. So of the ones that are coming back, of like those 10, 2 of them are old returning items. I mean, 8 of them are completely new.
Yeah.
Let's see. So let's see. I know one thing people are bringing up is the FPS stuff. I know that's something that we're actually pretty actively looking at. 5.5 had some things that helped with certain shader caching issues, but it brought some other things that we're looking into. Teams following leads on that.
There's a lot of performance stuff and work that's been done. I think hopefully later on this afternoon we should have a hotfix that goes out that fixes a few crash cases as well. It's just something that's been ongoing with the team since the last update in the 5.5 upgrade.
What do I think of quick play dodge? It's interesting because
Pon, they're gonna put you on the hook because of the last show.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's interesting. So it's one of those things where I think as a button to hit, it feels pretty fun. It just makes the gameplay feel a bit more actiony and dynamic-y, which as far as like MOBAs go, we're kind of more action aligned than we are some other different types of genres. So it just kind of feels nice to have. Bringing that to Conquest or outside of quick play would be something where I think you'd have to adjust it pretty heavily. Like the cooldown, the way that it interacts with different characters, feedback on being able to see it. Like, I don't think it's something that you could just take what's there in quick play right now and just copy paste it over. You need more things to build it and integrate it into a more competitive strategic experience. So I like it. I think it's fun to play around with. I'd rather have current Conquest without it a version of it where we've refined it and really polished it and done a lot of things to improve on like feedback for it, that could be a world that I see that could happen, right? Like that's my personal feel on it, and I don't make the sole decision on that either, but I think you would need to do more than what's currently there.
Cool. Question from chat. We've gotten it a lot over the past week. Is solo lane being looked at?
So as far as our conquest changes, I know the main things we want to focus on are less about like solo lane specifically and more about like how objective play happens in the laning phase versus how it happens in mid game versus how it happens in late game. Obviously solo lane is one of those ones where like that affects them probably more than others because mid and jungle kind of are able to control the middle of the map and fight over those objectives. Solo lane can sometimes feel like an island, and so all you really have is like the objectives around that moment. So it will affect them probably more than others, but it's more about that high level goal of like the actual pacing of objective play and what objectives are important and what you do to fight those objectives and what rewards they give, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then someone I know mentioned like a quick play joust stuff. I think once we have that in, it will have very similar rule sets and abilities to quick play arena. I think we'll also do like the pick 3 stuff on that as well once that's in.
Yeah. Someone is asking, are we aware of the exploit with pause that allows you to get free kills on people? I have not heard anything. I know there was an issue with pause to where like you could still move while paused, but then when the game unpaused, it would teleport you back. I was not aware that you were able to damage people during a pause.
Yeah, send a report through the there's like the bug report form in the game.
Or in the official Discord, there's a forum channel that you can drop a bug report.
That literally gets sent to our Slack, and having detailed repro on that just to make sure that we can follow up on it. Can you guys fix the bluestone bug? Sometimes it doesn't thick. I assume he meant tick.
Tick, yeah.
I do not know what the bluestone bug is. I haven't seen that reports on that one. Is planning to give Cyber Wars unique functionality? It could be something we play with. I don't think we have anything currently planned. The current drops that those give, we had ideas of how we wanted to expand on that system, but we just haven't implemented it yet. If Tyrant's art works out well, what's going to happen when all 10 players build and start having monster battles in lane? I was actually worried about that. So there is a part of the mechanic that makes it so it's not as good if you stagger with multiple people. Cool. But I mean, yeah, if that ends up happening, it could be fun. I think generally the trade-offs you have to make it good are probably not going to be worth it for your whole team to do.
SMT Crow asks, I noticed several changes to Mordred's 2 and PTS. Are those being followed through, or did we decide against them?
Yeah, those are not going forward. Cool. Those are just things that we were looking at. I think we wanted to do something a bit more aspect-focused, but just seeing his general performance, we didn't feel like it was necessary. Yeah. Are you going to add death animations to gods? I don't know what our plan is for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know Kilgoon we've talked about this before in the past. Death animations, probably not any time in the immediate future. I know we're aware of the feedback. We've talked about death animations. We've talked about intro animations and like intro voice lines. I thought intro voice lines were something that we were slowly implementing in. Right. Intro animations, we were kind of on the fence because the work that needed to go into them versus like being able to actually see them with the pop-ups that you get. It's kind of like a lot of people wouldn't see those when they're selecting a build. So nothing in the immediate future for death animations, but we've gotten the feedback a lot about, we know players would like them to return.
Yep. I saw a few talking about the Ymir ult bug. It is one that we're aware of.
Pon has been trying to hunt this down for a long time.
Well, we kind of know what the issue is. The fix for it's very complicated, and it's one of those things where our team is really focused on trying to get the like highest priority, easiest wins that we can get at any given time. We're like constantly weighing like we have basically a board of like all the issues that we know about and like their severity, their frequency of occurring, their how difficult are they to resolve, and we're basically constantly evaluating that list.
Yeah.
And that's one of those ones that's we know about it, but it's also one that's relatively difficult to actually resolve. So it's one of those things where we have to have the time to be able to fix the bug. Yeah. So it's one of those unfortunate things because people report it and then we don't fix it, and they're like, oh, I guess they just don't know about it. It's like, we do. It's just we have a lot of other things that we have to prioritize, and I wish we could fix every bug. But it's the unfortunate case of some of it sometimes. Also, length of bugs being around sometimes also bumps it up the priority. I can ask about it again, just see if there's any status change on it. But
let's see here. Is there a way to rebind the dodge button from shift? It's not in the controls menu.
Currently, I don't believe so. It's one of those things where we got it in for quick play in a way that like we could do relatively fast to be able to test out stuff for the new player experience. If that were to expand, that's one of those things that like if we were to expand it out and provide
we would add it
and lock it more in as a feature, we'd lock it in, because that could go away like next week, right?
True.
Like,
yeah.
We never know.
How do we feel about the amount of cleanse abilities / items compared to CC in Smite 2?
Yeah, it's tough. I think generally you want to be on the side of CC is a bit stronger than the ability to cleanse, because CC in Smite is really how games like you can lock people down, actually land your skill shots, land your abilities. Like if you can't lock people down too much, there's a lot of ways for people to like really escape really quickly compared to other types of MOBA games. So it's important to have CC be relatively strong. Having a AoE cleanse was one of the things that we thought was already pushing it a lot. So like the fact that you can buy an item that literally just cleanses your whole team like hell can do with an ability, right? Like that's really, really good. Magi is added to the game. That was when we added a few months ago, right? That was like a self tool for you to be able to deal with it.
Mantle of Discord.
Mantle of Discord also came back. So we've been slowly eking this into the game every so often. Because we want to be careful about also not just making it so that CC becomes relevant too quickly. Right now, it's probably in a good spot, I think. There's a few characters where their CCs are really, really strong, and we want to probably make character-specific adjustments at that. It's why when we port characters over, we've been generally reducing the CC, the time, the length, the knock-up height, stuff like that, because we know that you have less like immediate tools at the start of the game to resolve that. But there are tools available that your team can get and help out with.
As the game progresses.
Any plans to bring CCR as a stat? We've talked about it a few times. We have it actually, and I believe it works.
Oh, nice.
It's just we haven't really found like a past time to like really add it to a whole bunch of characters. We also don't know really how we would stat it as well. It's just one of those things that like we've been careful about how CC, like the timing of CC, we've made changes to diminishing returns. We've given these specific tools that are more direct counters versus things that vary the length of CC. If we decide to bring CC in as a stat, we'd have to lock on some more details and decide how we want to do it. But it's not currently on our radar to do.
Is Nuwa Aspect ult supposed to not proc Polynomicon on hit, or is that a bug?
Good question.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because it now procs in-hand effects, which that is an in-hand, but I know how Polynomicon's set up and is not set up to handle checking from an ultimate.
I'll take a note for you to.
I'd say that's a
clumsy to
bug, but man, is that going to be something to fix. Yeah, because it is checking for something very specific that Nuwa might not do. So interesting. Can we get more starter items and relics and also Fat Loki? So starter items, this is just one of those things where like, yes, we can add more starter items. I think generally the one that people generally want is the, I can't remember the name now. It's the purple piece of metal, Tainted Steel. Thank you. I could picture it in my head, right? That's like the common one that people want to see. There's also like the different paths that you have when you upgrade from Smite 1. Adding that slew of items, as you can see from the fact that we're talking about the OB14 stuff, adding a slew of items is definitely a lot. We might be able to find some targeted ones that like might be fun to bring back earlier. Like the difference between some of the upgrade paths that you had were interesting. I know that we've also wanted to just generally look at the starter item system as a whole and see if we want to do something different with it. So we kind of held on to that, and rather than just making that one of the things we decided to do in one of the patches past, depending on just what our priorities end up being, we might end up circling back to it and kind of taking the SMITE 1 system and bringing it in, or we might try and do something different. But actually having the Tainted Steel would probably be one that like we could do sooner rather than later. It conflicts a little bit with the OB14 stuff.
Yeah.
So wait till you see the OB14 stuff and see how you feel about having Tainted Steel. We'll see how that goes. Are the bugs with Mercs 3 fixed? I know we've addressed a lot of issues with it. And I believe one of them relating to getting stuck in a spinning state. We've resolved some stuff.
Yeah.
If there's stuff still happening, I would just need to go look into it and see. But I know that I've seen on the issues doc a lot of just general Mercury fixes. Yeah. What about relics? Oh, sorry, I missed the rest of that. Relics. We've talked about adding more relics, but the types of effects that would be good for a relic slot are pretty narrow. And generally, when we find an effect that we like, it makes more sense as an active effect than not. So yeah, we could bring more relics in. I don't think there's any reason for us not to, outside of adding too much bloat. Like I don't think we want to have like 20 relic selections. Like adding a 6th or 7th here, if it makes sense, is probably good. Yeah. But we just need to find like
that's something I didn't even think about. Is like those kind of relic type effects. Like, do you reserve them for a relic, or do you workshop a new active item and put that effect there?
Yeah, and like teleport to ward, teleport to lane is one that's come up as, especially because we also have a voice line for it. That was one that we didn't bring over because it was one of those things that like, especially with one relic slot, if you felt like you had to buy it to be able to like rotate and get to your lane, that one didn't feel like a great one potentially, because that was already one that even with 2 relics, like some especially solo laners felt like they were obligated to build this in certain metas, and that didn't feel great. Plus we also have done things to the game that makes that less required. We have the lane teleporters, for example, right? So again, it's like we have some ideas that we could bring over, but do they make sense in the context of SMITE 2? And then Fat Loki,
maybe.
I think Kabrakan just got a skin recently, right?
Yeah, well, he's getting Nerd Rage in the next update.
Unfortunate. It means you probably have to wait a little bit.
Yeah.
If you could snap your fingers and bring over a god instantly, who would it be? Probably King Arthur.
That's King a good Arthur. Choice, yeah.
I was debating between Atlas, and I was also debating between if I could get away with counting Horus and Set as one, because they released
at the same time. Yeah.
But yeah, probably King Arthur. King Arthur is just really interesting. He was like he's the most interesting design problem I had to solve, because like the pitch for him was very much like try and make a more combo action game like DMC type character in the context of a MOBA, and he has a lot of really unique things about him that no other character does, and getting that to work right and finding the right rules for it was really interesting. And plus he's just cool. Spamming abilities feels really fun, mastering the combos is really fun, and the ultimate just feels very satisfying.
Another update has hit SMITE 2 and the PTS just now. What are those updates? The update for SMITE 2 Live is probably the hotfix that I mentioned earlier. I'll have to double check with Kabir and make sure that I've got all the info, but I think there were some crash fixes in there, as well as a couple other things. But we'll have patch notes live for that hotfix on social media. In terms of PTS, we're constantly updating PTS internally. I'm not sure what's meant to go out to players, but working in game dev, it's like we push a build out to the clients like at least once or twice a day, right, Don?
Yeah, and I know that we even pushed like an update for PTS in the morning because we play tested on the PTS because we were testing stuff out in that environment. So yeah, PTS and dev get updated all the time for various random stuff. So hopefully there'll be notes for live, and then PTS is just PTS. Let's see. Can we get some paladins here as ported to SMITE 2, such as Lilith? What would porting another game's character look like? Probably not, just because again, like the context of the games are very, very different. I'm not even sure what I guess we could take Grover back.
Right? Yeah, that's true.
They did it with Grover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably a better question for Kilgoon. Save that question. And,
Kilgoon would have a lot more feels about that than I would, probably. What's a god not found in Smite that I would like to design? Interesting.
And before you answer, this is not confirming any future characters added to the game.
Let me think on
so
that
many
in the background.
choices, yeah.
Let me think of that on the background. Because the problem is, it's like, I know I have an answer to this, but now that I've been put on the spot, for some reason, my brain has just decided that I don't know a single other mythological character in all of existence. I'll give the meme answer, and then I'll give you a real answer later once I think of it. There's a god that's like a stove. He's like an oven.
Yeah, I think I know. We've joked around about that in the office before.
Yeah, that would be a fun one. ETA and performance fixes, those are just things that as we find them and as we can validate that they are, like, it's performance fixes are always really tricky too, because like actually validating as a fix can sometimes be tricky. That's the nice thing about consoles, because you can A/B test a console a lot more easily because they're generally the same device configuration, so you at least have a known back to back. But like even on PC, right, like different driver versions, different hardware configurations, are you CPU bound, memory bound, are you GPU bound, like anything could be going on, even from same machine to same machine.
Right, yeah.
Something that actually destroys your performance could be a general improvement for 90% of other players. And finding out why can always be really tricky. So there's people a lot smarter than me working on that problem, and they're working on trying to get things as fast as possible. It's definitely high priority for us.
Any jungler nerfs coming? They take over every game. Jaggly, you missed the beginning of the show. There are quite a few jungler nerfs in this upcoming update. Yeah,
so generally we've seen that junglers as a whole are doing kind of better with the strength changes, but that was from a place where most other assassins were not actually doing too well. There are characters who are overperforming in their role, so like Pele. It was Pele, Wheelix, Kali, Aladdin, Susano a little bit, but Susano fluctuates a little bit more than the rest of them, so he's kind of in his own side category. So they got generally addressed down rather than us doing like reverts to the strength changes we made recently.
Legend Kira, I am taking down your note about the Morrigan. I know we had to disable Yamoja due to a couple issues yesterday. This is the first I'm hearing about that Morrigan issue, but I will pass it along to the crew.
There are two questions that I think I can answer. So one is the turning dashes that some other characters got, like so Jingwei or Horus, or like Jingwei got, but Horus, if he got brought over. Horus wouldn't work the same, I think, because Horus is like the lock-on, right? So he doesn't really need the control of his dash. But those other, like, we've tried a few more times where, like, if a character feels like the ability would be more interesting or more fluid if they had more dynamic movement, we'd be willing to do that. And then the other one was, can you make Blink an item active? We've talked about that, especially in the context of combat Blink. That could be potentially an item active instead. We also had one other pitch that we were looking at trying to do that hasn't happened yet, that might be related to that. So again, just what we have time to end up working on and what we can get into a patch. So that general train of thought is something we thought of too.
Yep.
Targeted for actually I know this one. Targeted for aspect stopic missing intentional. Clumsy actually found the problem with that, and I think he submitted a fix for it. I don't know if that's in this coming patch or not, for 14 or not, but we did find what was causing that. Do you feel like the Reaper and Surge have too much identity overlap, strength, lifesteal, and gain conditional? Yeah, I do. That's why they are part of the OB15 thing. More spoilers. One thing that we saw with them, which is less related to the, like, it was just a time to adjust them, is, yeah, they do have pretty significant overlap. I think even Devo Gloves has pretty significant overlap with them as well. Just a lot of high strength, high lifesteal items that largely their effects are always on and do very similar things. Yeah, you can maximize them certainly on different characters, and one's a bit more risky than the other, but like they're very similar. So expect them to be kind of moved away from each other.
Pon, what is your favorite bread?
Favorite bread?
It's Friday. I got to take a couple fun questions.
It's probably sourdough.
Ooh, okay,
like, actually,
that's a good one. Yeah.
Like, I don't know why my YouTube feed does this to me, but every so often it goes, "Oh, you like baked goods?"
Yeah.
And it will like show me one baked good video, and if I ever click on that, I only get baked good stuff. But the thing that always gets me is the like artisanal sourdough loaves that like
got to make
really
the
dark
starter.
crust.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sourdough bread. Are there any gameplay elements that you just feel wouldn't work in Smite 2, like having a character fire a constant beam for an auto attack instead of a standard auto? We've tried. It's one of those things that like, does it work in Smite 2 or does it just not necessarily work for like kind of like MOBA characters in general? Like, there's been a few times we've tried it, especially like we've tried a lot of variations on the basic attack formula. Like, how do you make basic attacks feel different, and like how can you cheat certain things? And what ends up happening is you if you try to make it too different, it breaks the kind of standard expectation of how the character works, and it also interacts with all the other systems in the game in a way that can be very difficult to resolve. And so you either have to accept letting it be really powerful, or you try and balance it, and that sometimes takes the edge off of it. So it's one of those things that we have to be very careful whenever we try them. So like a constantly channel beam, that's like Yorm basic attacks do of something kind of similar to that vein, right? Multiple frequent attacks, that was something Charybdis did. Pass through Izanami. I tried on a Zeus change in Smite 2 where I gave him a hit chain, and he would do throw bolt, beam, and that beam, very good. Impossible to balance in a way that felt fair or reasonable or cool. By the time I got it to feel balanced, it just wasn't cool anymore. That's often a lot of times what you're fighting is, because we are a PvP game, because we want to make sure that like a character doesn't just break the convention and then get to rule the game because he breaks the convention. You have to find the things that can feel really powerful, feel really unique, feel really cool, but also fit within the context of the fact that we are a multiplayer PvP game. I think a lot of people will see like a game where it's like, man, that attack looked really cool. Why don't you guys do that? It's like, well, let me tell you, that's cool because you got a 10-second cutscene.
Yeah.
If you got hit by that 10-second cutscene and had to watch yourself get, like you knew,
especially in a PvP game,
like even like King Arthur ult, right? Like that's one of those things where it's like, you could probably up the cool factor of that a little bit more, but you will very quickly get to a point where that becomes just a frustrating experience when you get hit by it, especially when it's like. It's also like if you're your 1000th hour into Smite, because that's what live service long-term multiplayer games do. You end up being in the game for a really long time. The novelty of like a lot of that cool factor wears off over time. So you want to make things cool because obviously making cool stuff is just it's dope.
It's fun.
But if you go too far in one direction, you can also just make something that feels very fatiguing over the long term. Any gods you guys hate or don't like for any reason? Why? I mean, just play style things about characters, probably. Like Thoth as a character, I just don't like playing him as much. Just because, like, setting up the wall and then super long range poking, like, I like to play the characters that are like Kali and Thanatos and Nemesis.
You like to get in there and get active.
I get in there and get active. I try and make risky plays. I play with my health pool a lot. And he's just very safe. Even Giannis, where I get to like be aggressive and like portal in and have really low cooldowns too. And I'm basically like trying to stay in this mid range. Feels a lot more engaging to me than someone like Thoth. But there are people who love Thoth, right?
Pon, I'm going to throw this one to you just because this was a more recent change that you took point on. Is there a reason you can't beads Aladdin's lamp like Naja ult in Smite 1? It feels bad that you're forced to beads even if he misses the lamp.
Yes. So this is one and the Reddit thread that talked about it too, I responded a little bit. It's mostly in terms of just what is the anticipation and buildup and when should you be able to actually counter it, right? So, for example, Naja. It is entirely possible Naja blinks on you and then immediately melee hits you. So your reaction time to that event is 0.
Yeah.
So we have a small window where you can react to that, right? That's essentially the window. Now, if Naja max range ults you, you have a bit more time to react to that. Then and so your beads window is essentially functionally larger, right? Things like a Wheelix. A Wheelix can pull you frame 1 of a knockup from someone else, right? even if she's not visible to you. So the beads window for that is also like you're basically reacting from 0. Aladdin, you're not reacting from 0. Even in the melee range case, he has a build-up. It's an audio cue that you can hear. He has to anticipate it. He still has to throw a skill shot at you. So in melee range, you've already gotten the anticipation, right? Once you're hit, at that point, if we added more window time, which is the current window time we currently have is already really long, essentially it's I don't have to actually care about deciding if I'm going to get hit by this because I'll just wait till I actually get hit by this and then I'll react, right? Which that's not the kind of anticipation feel that we want for that ability. So that's why his is different.
Right.
Now there's the side reason of that ability is incredibly complicated. And there's a reason that we have that, like we could change it to that window reaction window is a lot lower, right? Like he could teleport you into the lamp way faster. And so therefore like you could have beads be kind of a skill check of reaction time. And that is a route to go, but we found that we needed that time for both the like actual like feeling of you going into the lamp and coming out and being transported. If that's too fast, it's really, really jarring. It even made a few people like kind of like sick or have to look away from the screen because it's like it's very intense. That time is pretty critical there. And also interrupting that state is one of those things. It's like it's a very complicated state machine that ult is. And it's one of those things like especially like as a change, we probably couldn't test all the permutation of that internally properly. So if we made that change, it would go to live and we'd have to resolve it there. But that's side to the main point of the reaction window, right? Like if he just could throw it instantaneously and then it would hit you, we'd make you beads that window. Can we get Set and Horus double release? So I was the designer for Set and Horus double release, and oh my gosh, that was a very intense release. That doing 2 gods at once is tough.
Oh yeah.
Especially because the original kit for them was actually very different. They were more meant to be mirrors of each other. So they are more meant to be like the same kit, but parts of them, like think of it more like our aspect system now, right? Like where Horus would be this kind of frontliner tank, and then things would be changed about those abilities for sets to where he'd be a bit more assassiny, but he'd still largely do things like charge forward. And we realized that wasn't cool, much to our dismay. And so we had to go, well, we're doing a double release anyway, so let's have
back
2
to the
kits.
drawing board a little bit.
So they were originally like actually scoped to be reasonable for 2 characters at once, and then we found out that wasn't cool, and so we did the cool thing instead. But man, was that intense.
How do you feel about the lack of melee characters in solo lane? I'm always leaning against Vulcan, Artemis, or some other ranged character.
So some of that is meta level dictation. We see that generally the warriors do pretty well even still. Now, frequency of who you're fighting against can obviously change your gameplay experience, but we generally see that warriors do pretty okay. They're mixed with other roles. So that's one of our goals of SMITE 2 was to make role diversity a bit more intense. That being said, we probably are a little bit further than we'd want to be there, right? So essentially the alarms aren't blaring like super crazy, but it is something we do want to address. And we think a lot of that is related to the objective play discussion that people have been having. Like if you can safely farm, what's your incentive to be melee on top of someone? If I don't have to walk forward to an objective because I always have something to farm, like that type of discussion is probably more of a thing that when we address, we'll largely take the edge off that issue and bring it more into line. What SMITE 1 god do I dread working on in the future? That's easy. That's the easiest question in my life. Persephone.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about Persephone. I don't know how.
I was the OG designer, and I'm also the rework designer for her, so I get all the praise and dislike of the changes that we've made over the years. She's gonna be really interesting because what version does she come over as is the biggest question. She also just has a lot of moving pieces that are gonna be generally like. We have all the pieces we need to like make her, but actually getting them all to work correctly in the way that we expect them to is definitely tricky. If I had to guess, the main thing that would change if Persephone got brought over is I just don't think we do the revive mechanic either as the original version or the new version where she gets to like walk around and plant a garden. I think this is a really good example. Remember I was talking about the things get balanced out of being cool?
Yes. Yeah.
Coming back to life and being able to continue to fight, very, very cool. Very hard to balance.
Yes.
You make it balanced by essentially making it a minor contribution to a thing, it's no longer cool. It feels more like annoying. It lost a lot of its luster. It might just be one of those things that it just doesn't make sense to really have, because fundamentally, like, it is betraying a promise of, I killed someone. I did the thing that is like the whole goal of this game, and I just die immediately anyway. There obviously people have like, there's versions in the middle, like people have suggested like she could just not ult, or she could, like, but you're balancing towards that thing that didn't feel as cool, and so we would decide to go all the way to the other end. We'd probably look for something different for her if she came back in regards to the passive, and then from there you probably can make more trade-offs about the OG kit versus the rework kit, about which pieces to take.
Any discussion on the split push meta within Smite 2, especially with Int Danza? I've seen a couple YouTube videos on this.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. As long as it's not the dominant strategy, split pushing, punishing people for being out of position, generally, like, what you see is if a team is coordinated, they're able to counter split pushing, because you see someone split pushing, you go, well, here's our chance to win this fight outright, take the objectives, push. If he wants to continue base racing us, we can. Like, there's ways to deal with it. There's also ways to, like, ward. There's other tools that you have available. You can send someone to defend. It's a bit more complicated to defend against, but you can. As long as it doesn't become the dominant strategy where someone can go super negative the whole time and they can just run down the lane. We've actually seen metas of that in Smite 1. And Smite 2 with things that we had before, where, like, literally being 0-20 didn't matter because you would just end the game anyway.
I remember, like, Smite 1, Bastet was a big offender of that for sure.
Yeah, so, like, as long as it's not the dominant strategy, we're generally okay with it. When it starts to become a thing that, like, people, it's an ease of actually executing on and being successful with. If it ends up being too successful, we'd nerf it, because we do want to encourage you to fight. That's we don't want you to.
It's about team fighting, right?
Team fighting, objective control. Split pushing is like a critical tool to, like, if an enemy team just wants to stall out, you can, like, that's how you generally break a Phoenix Siege, for example, right? You need to be able to split push to the other lane and send someone over there and be reasonably successful in doing that, because otherwise, if it's going to be 5-5 at Phoenix and they can just poke you out, you can't make progress. Like, sending someone to go pressure someone away to, like, progress the game forward is an important part. So you need those types of tools at some level, but if they're too strong, then that's a problem. Is Frostbound coming back? I would like it to come back. It's one of those high frustration items that, like, it probably wouldn't come back in the same way. We'd probably bring it back in a different way of applying the effect that felt like it required a bit more effort, and then that way we can make it a bit more powerful. What am I holding? Oh, it's a shoestring with a knot. Anyone's actually, like, been around for a while, I always spin something. So I'm always walking around with something.
It's like a little fidget toy.
Yeah, it's like a fidget toy, So I'm always spinning something.
Just because you're here, Pawn, with Arachne's design, whenever we get to it, would we consider using her original kit with the eggs? I know you loved this.
So for context on this question, I think my first 100 games of Smite I ever played, like 80 of them were Arachne. And I had like an 82% win rate on Arachne. And I would do a lane with Vimana. Caps would be playing Vimana. And I would definitely use the eggs to basically last all the camps on the map, walk into lane at level 3 with every single buff on the map. And that was fantastic. I really liked the old eggs. They do cause a problem, and I see why we've changed the character. I think there was a very niche playstyle that, like, I liked because I was really more abusing, like, the balance of the game in the early alphas. I think new Arachne has a lot going for her that's really, really good. There's some things I'd want to tweak, but I don't think it'd be bringing back the old kit. I think the current problem that current Arachne has, like, the webs design of the eggs, I think is just way better, because you can use it like the old eggs, but you also now have this as a line skill shot that you can hit that lets you chase people. Like, the webs is just the upgraded version of the egg. And basically, like, if we were to +1 Arachne kit and she still had the eggs, the webs would be that +1, right? I think her current existing problem is largely more around being double stim oriented.
All right. Well, we are almost at 2 p.m. It's 1:59, so it's time for one more question.
Oh, I missed the time.
No, you're good. It's all good. Don't worry about it. It's Friday. We're gonna get to it. Start our weekend a little bit early. Get ready for OB14 next week. But we'll take just 2 more questions before we close out the show today. I'll kind of wait and let chat fill up a little bit and see if we can find a couple good ones.
I just remember that I need to come up with a god that I would like.
Oh, yep.
Actually, I don't know if this is actually the character, like the god's name, but like chaos.
Oh, okay, cool.
Just like the character that is the concept of chaos. That one has always been interesting to me because you could take that in so many different directions, and that could be also just a very like. I also like characters that have very strong visual hooks, especially with like weaponry.
Yeah.
So like, if you can't tell, Excalibur, the Atlas using the astrolabe is like a gem, like Tsukiyomi having
cool
the twin
weapon.
tonfa. Like when I was working on this character, I really pushed for like those like weapons.
Yeah,
being,
it really
like,
pushes their silhouette in a really unique way.
And it also gives me tools to play with as a designer, like how would this weapon actually be used by the character? Like, I feel like you could do a lot of cool things with chaos.
That'd be sick.
So not the last question, but I did realize I didn't answer that person's question earlier.
All right.
I like how Suki confirmed because I made
all the SMITE one gods are going to make their way over eventually, right?
What are my thoughts on enchanter items? This is a little bit related to OB15, so I can kind of mention it. Is I think there's 2 general directions you can kind of go with different like enchanter supporty characters, and generally they have healing or they have a lot of team buff utility and stuff like that. I generally like the heal and utility provided by them being strong, but like at a reasonable level that isn't just completely their only identity, and then creating a suite of items on top of that then lets them do more things on top of that based off the fact that they have these types of abilities. So I like the idea of enchanter items. It's a little bit related to, but not quite related to, a lot of the OB15 stuff that we'll discuss later. But as a concept, I think it's the better balance point for like those types of characters, because if you don't provide that utility support to them in that way, it's kind of the same thing as like, okay, I made a mage, but their base damages are just high enough that they don't need to buy int. Then what are they buying?
Yeah.
And also like they're just kind of nuts and they're really good. And when they're in that state, they become a very difficult balance problem. It's also hard to like push their identity in any different way other than just, well, I guess I also gave them int scaling and now they're just busted. Yeah. Or I have to do something like make a 75% item that reduces the damage they specifically deal, because I can't deal like the analogy's kind of falling apart, but like you kind of get what I'm saying is like if they're too good without itemization needing to support them, that also creates a problem.
All right, and I think for my last question, I'm gonna kind of keep up with the item conversation. I've seen this sprinkled, over the past few months, but it's definitely seen an uptick with the release of Mercury. But just thoughts on movement speed items in SMITE 2? Yeah,
it was something that I wanted to get to for Mercury's release. We just didn't have the time to. There was 1 or 2 items that we had an idea for, but when I went to go work on them, they just didn't work out the box, and so. Essentially, like it would be nice for him to have more support. Yeah. There is existing support in Tekokage. There is in Musashi's. That also works. We found an issue where Stampede is not working with it, which I thought it was working with it. So there's a few items that like it's the dynamic movement speed over time stuff isn't working with him. So there are things, and like there's other character abilities that can give you movement speed. So he still gets interactions from his teammates, and he still gets interactions from some items, but it would be nice to have some more for him. Yeah. Separately, movement speed is one of those things that like as a stat is one of the more dangerous ones we can play with, because if I give you a 5% movement speed buff, you probably don't notice it, but it'll drastically increase your chances of winning more than probably any other stat we can give you, because being slightly out of range of that AoE, or being able to slightly get in range to knock someone out, or like being slightly faster to the rotation so you got your ult off first, it's very invisible, but man does it increase your win rate a ton. So it's one of those things that we have to be that's why we moved away from like boots if we give movement speed on items very low, or it's conditional.
Yeah.
So we wanted to like, it's one of those things that we are very careful of, and that's why there's not a big pool of that in Smite 2 in general. But there's one or two that I wanted to bring over for Mercury. We didn't get there. They're in the back burner. We'll probably bring them over, and that'll help Mercury out a lot, as well as finding any bugs with the existing movement speed items for him.
Awesome. Well, Pon, thanks so much for joining me on the show on this Friday.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you hanging out with us and going over balance and answering some questions. Chat, thanks so much for tuning into the show. Lots of cool stuff in Open Beta 14. Lots of cool stuff that we're working on for Open Beta 15 as well. We'll get to that when we get to it, though.
Yes.
Until then, hope everyone has a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday with the show going over anything that we didn't cover for Open Beta 14 yet. We'll have full patch notes posted on the website next Monday, and we'll go through those as well. But until then, hope everyone has a great rest of the day and a great weekend. Peace.
Later.